Hi, Misha again, and we're back out with the ATI not Galil, and trying a different set of mags out of a different pouch. These are surplus and clicked right in. Got a little bit of play, which is fine for a Kalashnikov, so we're gonna run a few more rounds through it. Okay, now Jay with the ATI.
Portrayed. Okay, move on there.
That was a user issue there, Jay says. So
we had a little jam. That was me bump firing from the shoulder. So
just like on the video one, if you haven't seen it.
yeah, it did it then too. Okay, that was a bang or a click, no bang. We are not picking up the next round.
Okay, are we fully seated?
It is.
Interesting.
It is overriding the right round. Yep, click, no bang.
Okay. Okay, ATI again with surplus mags.
Okay. Yep. So what it did was it shot out of the mag and missed the feed ramp there. So it's like, I think we said that this had a bent, looked like it's had a bent feed lip on this magazine.
Yeah.
So it's not quite catching the rounds.
Yeah, we can show them when we did the table talking a bit.
That was on the right side. Okay. Try this again. Same thing. Went right over the top of the feed lip.
ATI surplus mag. And it's towards the end of this mag again.
Yep.
ATI with the Tapco mag. ATI again with the Tapco.
Okay, it's clear.
We good?
Yep.
Alrighty, now we're here at the table. So, should make some of you happy to have seen some issues this time with the gun. So we did have some failures to pick up from the mags this go around. Same basic mix of ammo like before, PPU, Wolf, yada yada. Hey guys, it's Memorial Day weekend. It's kind of hot out there, so we put a few more mags through it. But first off, I want to say, as you saw at the end, with the Tapco mag, we didn't have any issues. Same as the first time. Now the first outing we did, I had essentially, not new, but commercially sold, unissued type mags from the 80s. This time I brought out 2 surplus mags. Oh, come on. Which are not commercial. I believe these came from either Century, back in the day when they had the Galanis, or C&C Warrior back when they were selling some Galil stuff. So with these, we had some issues. Nothing too major, just failures to feed. Here's the thing. Both of these mags are known to not be 100%. One of these has kind of a bent out feed lip, which made even loading it kind of interesting. Even loading it, if you didn't get it well seated, the rounds we want to pop out on the right side, which happened to both Jay and I. The other one, I think it's this one here, has a really light spring, like where it's been maybe left loaded or just used. It also has a small dent in here. What happens, these are steel mags, so a lot of importers will refinish them and they'll look good, but they will have seen quite a bit of use. You'll have, again, maybe misshapen feed lips, or springs that are worn out, or just dents in the mags. I remember when Century was doing the Galanis, they would ship them with 2 mags, but they would only guarantee one to work, and the other one was kind of a crapshoot. Now, am I saying all the problems that people are having with these are mag related? No, of course not. I don't know. We have a sample size of 1 here. What we can say is when we were using it with known good mags, either be the lightly used IMI or the Tapco, we had no issues whatsoever. The only issues we ever had were with 2 surplus mags with known defects. That's our experience. I would just say anytime you're using surplus mags, this is something that is a possibility. And for whatever reason, Galil mags seem to have been handled rougher in service than standard AK mags, because they are steel. If they dent, they're not going to bounce back. But I think mostly it's just they were well used over a long period of time. One good thing, we had absolutely 0 fitment issues with these mags. They popped in very well with just the typical AK wiggle. Nothing excessive. So yeah, it seems like that issue is gone with these, and maybe with the gun in general, frankly. If I can get this one out now. There we go. It's a weird angle, guys. And just to show you the Tapco. About the same, maybe a little more side to side than the other ones, but real similar. So I can't say what the people's experiences have been. Oops. But I can say that ours, the only issues we had appeared with these mags concurrently. Was it a coincidence? Anything's possible, but we actually ended up the day using the Tapco again and experienced no feeding issues. Well, with that said now, which is food for thought, about a lot of Israeli Galil mags are frankly worn out or defective, I would suggest you look at your feed lips carefully and check the tension on the springs, and also examine the body for any small dents to make sure they are feeding, and when you load them, kind of observe. Now, why don't we go and take this critter apart and look inside and see if there's any adverse wear or cracks. Alrighty, we got her apart. Let's do a look inside. This won't be Rob Ski levels of thorough, but might as well. And if you guys see anything on the camera, please point it out. And Jay, if you see something while filming, feel free to step in. But yeah, here's our top cover. Here's the inside. There's, this is an original Israeli part, so it definitely still fits even after quite a few rounds to this gun. It still fits secure, but I was able to pull it off by hand. Honestly, the fit is about as good as I've felt on original Israelis. It's a hard balancing act. Too tight and you have to hammer it off. Too soft and you have to where's my recoil spring? Yeah, sorry guys. But yeah, here's our recoil spring. It is still Cosmoline-y, but nothing weird here. It's not bent or malformed. The push button to take it apart again fits tight, but I was able to push it in with hand. It was a tight push, but I got it in. So it's fitting nice, but not too much so. Moving on, our bolt carrier. This is another Israeli part. Obviously, lots of gunk built up on the piston head. And it has the typical slop. As Jay pointed out, the pin to hold it in looks like it's definitely not welded. It appears to be lightly staked, and it is a little bit over on this side, but it doesn't seem to be walking out. I think it's just a little bit asymmetrical. Something maybe to keep an eye on, but it doesn't seem like it's gonna go anywhere. But hey, it's not welded like on a Century, so that's great. And looking at the carrier tail, there's only the faintest rubbing, really not even peening. But considering the round count of this gun and the fact that this is still a surplus part, I'd say this carrier tail's in really decent shape. Looking at our bolt, again, very dirty. No deformation, a little bit of kind of roughage on the bottom here, like a little tiny bird area here. But the firing pin spring is actually still very springy, easy to push in, but still firm. It's not stuck in one position or another, so I'd say the spring they're using is pretty good. There is a little bit of wear on this locking lug here. It doesn't seem to be anything alarming or out of the ordinary. But again, this is an original Israeli part, so wouldn't expect anything major. So that's our internal bits. Now we'll look at the real important thing, the receiver, how she's holding up. Our hammer is original Israeli, which is good. We don't have a lot of the issues you'll have with Tapcos or racks or any of those. You do have the issue with any milled hammer where they want to go all the way forward because there's not a stop, so I'm not going to let it go forward. But yeah, the hammer to bolt carrier interface seems to be good because they're original parts. On our extractor here, or excuse me, ejector, there's the faintest bit of peening back here. That could have been from someone letting the hammer go forward and hitting it. It happens, but nothing major. And more importantly, there's not a lot of wear up here, just a little bit of peening. Could even be just leftover machining, but no cracking or drooping as we saw in the early Ohio rapid fire receivers. Likewise, looking into the locking lug recesses, there's a little bit of wear in the back of that one, but doesn't seem to be cracking or chipping, just parts wearing in. You guys can judge for yourself. Look at the other recess there. It seems fine. The rails seem fine. In other words, the receiver seems to be holding up well enough. A couple of things I have noticed. The bullet guide is a little loose now. If I can do it. You can move it just a little bit and hear it rattle. That seems to be the rivet here is just a little bit light riveted. Probably could be crushed just an inch more. But I noticed this after our first rain session. It was a little loose. It doesn't seem to have progressed with our second session. So something to look for maybe is to make sure your bullet guide is seated. Again, this is a non-load bearing part. This is just there to guide bullets, so As long as it's still doing its job, that's kind of what matters. And also there's a small mark on the side of the receiver here, and a corresponding mark on the handguard retainer. These don't seem to be cracks. They seem to be like where a tool maybe skipped over it or something happened. A blim, essentially. Because if you look on the edge here, it's not cracking through. I don't think that's a crack. I think it's just a mark blim, or maybe something happened to it. And yeah, that's about it. The only other issue we noticed was when it was cold, before it really started to get shooting, the bolt was a little bit sticky the first time we tried to retract it back, which I'm really just gonna put to the fact that this is getting quite gummy and dirty. We actually cleaned some of the gunk off for this video, but it, you know, shooting a lot of steel case, you know how it goes. So I think that just has to do with the fact that it's getting dirty. But once it warmed up, that stickiness went away, which would make sense for being dirty. And yeah, the handguard is about as tight as these ever get. These ARM styles are always a little bit loose. Pistol grip is tight. Buttstock is, you know, about as tight as these get as well. Fine. The flash hider started to walk off a little bit, but that's easily enough fixed. Loctite's your friend, or a crush washer. I presume these are threaded the standard 13mm. Yeah, it sits on pretty good. And again, after the first range trip, it was tight. Only after today and being in the heat did it start to get a little loose after cooling down. But that's to be expected. I mean, that happened on even the KR9 and several other guns. So there you have it, folks. Like I said, you saw it for yourself. This has had a number of rounds through it now of different types of ammo, and trying several mags, new, used, polymer, Tapco, Orlite, everything you've seen. It seems like for our particular gun, the issue, when we have any, really should, you know, seem to be mag related. And with all the surplus mags out there, again, I know a lot of them, just from personal experience, aren't in the best of shape. Even if they've been refinished by the importer, sometimes you have to look deeper than the finish coating. They might have been rusty at one time, or they might just need a new spring. That might be if you're having feeding issues, it could just be that the mag isn't feeding fast enough. So maybe just a new fresh spring would help out. Just suggestions. And again, ours is a sample size of 1, not really saying anything other, but we promised to do a follow-up, and the first video got a lot of interest, so here it is. And if you'd like to know more on the Galil, we do have history videos. We've got an original LM5 video. We've got one on a Jeff Miller ARM build. And of course, we have several on the IWI Ace. So we're no stranger to Galils around here. Well, we hope you had a good Memorial Day weekend. It was hot for us, but we got out and shot, and it was a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Any questions or comments, or if you'd like us to try or examine anything with this ATI, just leave it in the comments below, and we'll do our best. If you could, like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel, help us get to the range a bit more, please check out the link to our Patreon page. This is Misha, and we'll catch you very soon next time.